Arg matey! Atlas, everyone's favorite pirate game, what happened?
Yeah, I'm not going to do a pirate voice the entire time, so thank you AI voice. But yeah, Atlas, what happened to this game? It was supposed to be the next big thing. An open world, pirate PvPvE, exploration, crafting, survival, MMO. It was backed by a successful publisher. It had experienced developers, the makers of the mega popular Ark Survival Evolved. It was even advertised at the Game Awards, so it had a proper marketing budget, and it had all the hype. But it lays dead. So what happened? All the clips you see in the background are from an earlier YouTube video that I put out a few years ago. But I don't even know where to begin with this game. There is a lot to talk about. But let me make this clear. I absolutely loved this game for a long time. In fact, I have over 600 hours in it. But it was slowly but surely killed by its developers. The trailers were misleading, and the game's roots could be traced back to an unfinished Ark mod. The launch was an absolute disaster that I experienced firsthand, and the game never really recovered from it. Once it became clear that it would never be the profitable juggernaut that Snail Games wanted, it was placed on the back burner with only minuscule development to avoid a complete PR disaster. Let's take a second to look at where this game came from. It was developed by Grapeshot Games, which seems to be an in-house subsidiary of Studio Wildcard, who are the creators of Ark. Now, this company seems to be a subsidiary of Snail Games, which is a Chinese publishing company. Now, if you search on YouTube, you're going to find a modder who was making a mod called Pirate World Mod for Ark that was well into development in 2016. However, if you try to find that mod today, it seems to be completely gone. So the rumor goes that the devs of Ark wanted to make an ocean-based expansion pack for Ark. When they began working on it, they decided that they would be able to make this into a standalone game and make much more money from it. It was a win-win. They could use their assets from Ark and then rush this thing into existence. So they allegedly started working on it quite hastily, and they got the trailer ready to go lickety-split. They played this trailer at the Game Awards on December 6, 2018. And then guess what? The game was released in early access on December 22nd, 2018, only 16 days later. What on earth? Let's watch the trailer, and I'm going to make a few comments about it. Look how many NPCs are here and how much stuff is going on. You never see this in-game, and you never see that sign that says EEGS either, or people with snakes chasing after them like pets. As far as I know, this was never in-game. Why would you build a raft to go down a tiny little river with waterfalls on both sides? I don't think my crew ever saluted me. So that appeared to be a horse jumping from one ship to the other. That's something that pretty much never happened in game. And from the looks of it, they make it seem like everybody has their own ship and has like this massive crew that's so easy to get. The game wasn't anything like that. I don't recall there ever being outfits like that or enemies that looked like that running around. Finding treasure maps was actually kind of a nightmare. It was kind of fun though. There was no way to do this stuff without just like a massive group of people with you, which we all know it's so easy to do. Maybe I'm just being forgetful, but I don't remember ever seeing sirens or being able to punch them in the face. They purposely made it seem like it's so easy to build giant ships and launch them. That would take days and days of collecting resources to make. I don't think you could ever ride around on dragons and shoot fire at ships. At least nothing that I ever saw. So anyways, that trailer, it kind of made the game seem like the coolest thing of all time, right? But the game was nothing like it. The game was like what you're seeing now. Just collecting resources awkwardly. At least unless you had a massive company with a lot of players. I mean, later they added collection buildings, but by then the game was already ruined and nobody was playing, so it didn't matter. It was too little, too late. So as we've already kind of discussed, one of the main issues I remember people being upset about is that the trailer doesn't match the game experience at all. You spawn in an empty port with a couple NPCs that don't move or talk. There's no real direction on what to do. There's no NPC interactions that are meaningful. There's no real quest. It's entirely a sandbox. But the impression that the trailer gives is like living, vibrant towns full of things to do and crazy, wacky things going on. I remember a lot of people refunding the game after seeing the main ports. But Grapeshot always promised the game was merely unfinished and it would be amazing someday. It is now the year 2024, so I reinstalled the game. All 124 gigs of it. Yup, 124 gigs. Well, let's see what it looks like to spawn with a new character now. Man, it still feels so glitchy and weird after all this time. Wow, truly exhilarating. What a wonderful, vibrant town this is. Compare this to what we saw in the trailer. Yeah, okay, enough of this. So clearly, we see that it never did end up looking like the trailer. Disappointing at best, fraudulent at worst. Now, this is ancient history, and there's not a lot of hard evidence to back this up, but the launch of the game was a massive disaster. So many people tried to play it, they basically DDoSed the servers. But don't worry, streamers and YouTubers got their own servers to advertise the game, and they could play, but you, the paying consumer, couldn't. Here's an article I dug up from Screen Rant explaining the fiasco. Now, I'm not going to read the entire article, but feel free to pause the video and read it for yourself. But according to the writer of that article, they tried for 2 days to get into the server and only got in once. And when they did get in, they died immediately in the middle of the ocean. So let me tell you about my experience. Well, after a few days of us trying to get in, me and my group of friends were actually able to spawn in together. But the problem was, the server was so laggy, you couldn't do anything. There was constantly 30-second to 1-minute rollbacks and rubber banding. There was no way to get anything done. There was thousands of players running around on beaches spamming attacks on each other. It was complete chaos. Although it was kind of funny, it was definitely not what we paid for or were expecting. So I can complain all day about the launch. But what about later, when the game got its sea legs? Get it? Sea legs? Anyways, the game improved, but it never really went to where it should have been. Now let me list off the issues that I felt kept the game from being more successful.
Reason 1, ya scallywags!
The game boasted it had a giant world that could hold 40,000 players. And that was partially true. It was made up of smaller servers, or grids, that would have 3 to 4 islands on them, and you could transfer from server to server by going to the edge of your grid. But it was not truly one big map, and you could exploit the server crossings, and oftentimes they were glitchy. This would eventually prove to be costly to the developers, and they would have to make the servers smaller and smaller until the game was merely a shell of its former self. Also, this made hosting private servers extremely costly for consumers. So, through Nitrado, which seems to be the official server renting company for Atlas, a 32-person server with a 4x4 grid comes out to approximately $460 per month. So a private server would probably be out of the range of your average consumer.
Reason 2, ya landlubbers!
Thank you, AI voice. Yes, reason number 2 was that the game, it did look great for 2018. But it ran horribly. It had bad performance issues, and the lag ruined many players' experiences. It often overworked graphics cards and overheated computers. In fact, the first few days of the release, it was completely unplayable. Not to mention, the absolutely massive install size was daunting for many PC players.
Reason 3, you swabbies!
The trailer made it look like everyone had a fully operational galleon. Well, that's not even close to true. To make the larger ships, it would take days of grinding resources and working to build it, and multiple players' worth of skill points researching different parts. They did eventually kind of speed it up, but they kind of did it in the most annoying way ever. So, in the beginning of your playthrough, all you did was grind resources by hitting rocks and trees with tools. Not to mention, to get these ships to work, you had to get a crew. Crew were very annoying to get and maintain. A lot of times they would glitch out and just fall in the ocean and die. Sometimes when you went to launch your ship, it would just immediately sink and be destroyed.
Reason for you scurvy dogs!
Thank you, AI voice, but I think you meant 4. But companies were basically large social groups of players, basically a clan or a guild. But these companies would make it impossible for solo players or players in very small groups. How could a few people stand up to a raid of 30 to 40 or even more players? This ended up completely ruining the game for most people, and this was probably the biggest complaint. With that many people, it was easy to collect the resources to make bigger and stronger ships. Then, small groups of players would have no way to defend themselves, and they would lose everything they had worked for in one raid, possibly even happening while they were offline. Another problem is that these large companies would use up all the land and claim it for themselves, so other players would have nowhere to play or to make their bases.
Reason 5, you barnacle-covered scoundrels!
Unrestricted PvP. In theory, the openness of this and the sandbox quality, it would be appealing, right? It would be a selling point. But it wasn't quite as fun when you logged in, and the night before somebody came through, sunk all of your ships, destroyed your base, killed your tames, and now you're back at square one, only to have to grind resources all over again. This ruined the game. So you may say, hey, that was only an issue on the PvP servers. And you're partially correct, but the PvP was really what drew a lot of people to this game, but doing it in a way that becomes not fun really drove a lot of the players away.
Reason 6, you hornswogglers!
Game mechanics abuse was always a problem. Instead of building large, well thought out ships, people would just build meme ships that would quickly throw explosive barrels and destroy you quite easily. Or build giant armor coverings on your ships that made normal combat against them impossible. People would abuse safe zones to keep their gear safe, and ended up turning the starting zones into cluttered nightmares. Eventually, puckle gun turrets were added. Players placed these all over the map, and they would instantly kill you at a huge range and make almost the entire map impassable. I could go on for days explaining all the things people did to ruin other people's fun. As a side note, several times hackers got control of the game's admin and completely destroyed the game so bad they had to do massive rollbacks. They were spawning planes, bosses, whales, everywhere. It was kind of hilarious, but it did cause a big headache for a lot of people.
Reason 7, you bilge drinkers.
Lack of content. What they added was so minuscule, it was ridiculous. Players wanted giant NPC towns to raid, NPC ships you could board and commandeer, quests, dungeons, but all we got were masses of ghost ships and golden isles where the enemies were so difficult it required a huge group of enemies to kill a single one. But most of this content was out of reach for the majority of players. Did the devs listen to the player complaints? Not a chance. Now, another side note, players discovered menus in-game that were directly ripped from Ark, showing that most, if not all, the assets were directly taken from Ark itself.
Reason 8, you scurvy buccaneers.
So another problem is the player-hosted servers. We briefly talked about this earlier, but if you were to rent it through the company, it was very expensive to have your own private server. To host it yourself was very complicated to set up. Many of the private servers would wipe regularly or go offline, and all your progress would be lost. So the majority of players were probably forced to play on the official servers, which were full of those mega companies that we talked about earlier, as well as wipes and glitches that would ruin your progress. I think it would have really changed things if they would have just put out a simple, easy to use tool to create your own server for you and your friends. And before you all say it, yes, I know you could host a listen server, but the problem with that is that there was tethering and you could only go to a single grid at a time. So this game had a lot of issues, but why am I talking about it? My Steam library is full of dead games with issues. This game is different because it had the potential to be one of the best games ever made, and the amount of fun me and my friends had playing it despite its flaws. So let's talk about a few things that were really amazing about this game. 1. It was so satisfying to build yourself a brigantine or galleon and fully stock it and set it out for adventure. The ships were customizable in a cool way and they looked amazing. Ship combat could be super fun, and even raiding bases on the shore was great. 2. PvP, when it would occur organically and fairly, was a ton of fun. Now, I'm not talking about getting wiped at night by a mega company, but running into a group of players on the beach and duking it out. 3. There was a lot of fun things to do on the ocean. Collect flotsam, shipwrecks, fight ghost ships, explore new areas to bring back rare resources, and of course PvP other players. 4. You could build a truly unique base with infinite customization and tame tons of cool animals, grow food and make castles, anything you wanted to do. 5. It was fun to work together with your friends to make weapons, armor, building ships, and try to do some of the mini-quests like fight whales or discovering special areas. Some of our best gaming moments are from Atlas. I remember one of my buddies running over to some nearby players and scolding them on what it means to be a good neighbor, since they had been attacking our structures where we weren't looking. This game was really a blast in its prime. It's a shame that the devs killed it and didn't let it breathe on its own. Now, as I like to do for the endings of my videos, let's read out a few of the player reviews. The most accurate pirate game I have ever played. It's stolen all our money. 10 out of 10. At least the refund button is not buggy. I think I just paid $25 for an Ark mod made by some monkeys in a basement. Build a boat. Launch a boat. Boat explodes in shallow water. 20 hours. Build another boat. Launch in deep water. Mean person destroys the boat before you can sail boat. Another 10 hours. Game deleted. Ark with pirates. That's not even worth being pirated. The game is nothing like the trailer. Devs truly debated everyone. There are extreme design flaws in the game. You either die from your ship desinking in the middle of the ocean, or live long enough to get pillaged by a giant Chinese clan. I would draw a parallel between this game and hardcore drugs. It can feel good. You might think for a moment you are enjoying yourself, but in the end, you've only wasted your energy, money, time, and health. Are you tired of having fun? Feel like life could be filled with a lot more pain and sadness, but you just don't know how to achieve it? Search no more. With the new state-of-the-art gameplay, Atlas is here for you. You want to find an island and build your pirate empire? Well, with Atlas, you will have the possibility to do that. You probably won't, because all the islands are already taken, and the chance that you will be able to take it over without a base where you can craft your gear are pretty low. But hey, there are always lawless islands where everybody can build whatever they want wherever they want. Just hope that nobody takes your raft, because otherwise you won't be able to respawn there and be forced to sail there from our starter zone, conveniently located at least an hour away from your island. But hey, it could be worse. Or could it? So then, what was the point of this video? Well, it's not so much a rant about how much I hate it, as it is, I'm just sad that the game never fully realized its potential. At this point, there's probably no reason to pick this game up or try to play it. It's pretty much dead. And there are other alternatives now. There's Skull and Bones and Sea of Thieves, although I've heard both those games are also not fun. But maybe in the future, someone will take this formula and do it right. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one.